populations in the West are all in decline. And once those declines get going, then they pick up momentum for all sorts of unavoidable laws of nature. The gloomiest predictions say that the Japanese population could collapse completely. But there would be no Japanese people in a century or a couple of centuries' time, which it's just unthinkable. But the fact is, all over the West, it's the same. The fertility rate in North America, all through Europe, and in various other places besides, but in the developed world, the fertility rate has dipped below 2. It's dipped below 2.0, so it's down to 1.3 in Singapore, but it's like 1.7 in North America, and it's down below 2 all over the place, and that is literally unsustainable. If those it's like getting into a nosedive in an aircraft. Once it goes into the dive, the longer the dive continues, the harder and harder it becomes to get out of the dive. The effort to pull the aircraft back out of the nosedive becomes harder and harder the longer that decline goes on. And some of the Scandinavian countries have been working very hard, to get back from these unsustainable levels. So one or two of the Scandinavian countries have maybe nudged it from about 1.6 to about 1.8 over the last couple of decades, but they're still struggling. And all of that is unsustainable for those populations. And it could, a lot of people are speculating for all sorts of reasons that there's, dropping, sperm counts for males, all that, all the estrogen that's in the drinking water because of the contraceptive pill being prevalent in the West since the 1960s, that men are taking on so much estrogen from the drinking water that it could be affecting the production of sperm, and it may be rendering men increasingly infertile. But in truth, it's just as likely that the impact is being made by education and contraception. If they're lifted out of poverty by dint of education, and then they get access to contraception, more and more women will just self-limit the number of kids to a couple. That becomes more and more the case. Maybe the odd couple have 3, but having 1 or 2 children becomes even more common, and that is unsustainable. And then, but at the other end, obviously, sub-Saharan Africa, as I mentioned, they're going the other way. Nigeria is looking to be in the next 30 years or 50 years, Nigeria would be the second most populous country on earth after China. Nigeria is looking to get up into the 700 and 800 millions of people. And so all the demographics of planet Earth will inevitably start to shift. And ideas like migration, you might have to rethink migration, because countries, one way or another, need people. They need people of working age to come in and do things, to grow the food, to build the houses, to look after the elderly. And if a population isn't doing that from its own internal resources, its own people giving birth to at least 3 children, then those countries that are in that kind of terminal decline would need to import someone from outside to do everything. So, you'd get the consequences are, it becomes the law of unintended consequences. You'd need a crystal ball accurately to predict what might be the consequences of all of that. But I just think in a climate where we're encouraged to think about a catastrophe of rising temperatures and rising populations, what if the opposite is happening? Some climate scientists, laureate holding scientists among them, say, in fact, we're going into a period of global cooling. Some of them say that the planet has not got any warmer since 1939. What if we're actually dealing with the advent of a cool period, maybe of a few centuries duration, who knows, and an unsustainably collapsing human population? In short, we might be looking ahead and hypothetically preparing for a set of circumstances that don't exist: too hot and too many people. What if the reality is cold and not enough people? It's worth thinking about.